think most people look at this river and they see dirty water. They think perhaps it's it's fairly dead, but in reality it's rich and alive. It's the largest salmon run in the world. These prehistoric creatures like sturgeon are here.
It's because of those sturgeon that we're on the Fraser River with the man in motion, Rick Hansen, honorary chair of the Fraser River Sturgeon Conservation Society.
We're coming up to the area where it was the sturgeon commercial capital of British Columbia, where they harvested about 1 million pounds a year of sturgeon meat.
In the late 1800s, the commercial sturgeon fishery was booming on the Fraser. The fish grew to over 20 feet in length, 150 years in age. But in less than 2 decades, they were on the verge of extinction.
And at 1910, the fishery collapsed because they had basically harvested all of the big 100-plus-year-old fish, kind of clear-cut the stocks, and they've been struggling ever since.
That they know the sturgeon are still in trouble is thanks in part to the use of these little pit tags, part of a program the Conservation Society started back in 1999. With the help of volunteer anglers and fishing guides like Tony, the majority of the 43,000 sturgeon in the Fraser have had the tags injected under their skin.
That's a nice fish.
I think it's our responsibility to give something back. We need to, it's a two-way street. If we're lucky enough to have this great resource, we need to protect it for the future.
Every time a sturgeon is caught, the pit tag number is recorded and the animal measured.
157 centimeters.
With this information, the Conservation Society puts out a report. And this year, like in others, the news is bad.
The concerning news is that we have lost some fish, and the fish that have been lost have been below 100 centimeters.
In 2009, their numbers declined by 4.5%, a total of 25% in the last decade. One reason, poaching. Not releasing a sturgeon unharmed is illegal on the Fraser, and yet it happens regularly. Another problem, bycatch. Sturgeon becoming entangled and dying in gill nets meant for salmon. One solution, fish wheels.
These wheels will catch the fish, but all the fish are alive when they're captured, and you can release them. Ones you don't want to keep, ones you want to protect, and you can take the other ones home.
But Carl fears there's another reason why the young sturgeon are declining, one that has to do with the crash of ooligan and salmon runs.
I think it's because there's probably not as much food as there once was, and so they're not as healthy, and they're not going to spawn if they don't think there's enough food in the river to feed the juveniles.
Sorry, I'm just pulling out this holds the receiver down.
The more that is learned, the better the chance that threats can be determined and reduced, important habitats identified and saved, which is why an acoustic tracking program was recently begun.
We've got the date of every hit that we had from tags going by. We've got the time of day.
So it gives us a lot of information on how fast they move up and down, how long they spend in the ocean, and this really affects our monitoring and assessment program.
They've outlived the dinosaurs, survived 2 ice ages, and yet, in the span of a century, we have managed to nearly wipe these remarkable creatures out. But we also have the power to save them.
We've got to pay attention to these fish. We've got to make sure that we work together, First Nations, sport fishermen, commercial, and sectors in government to ensure that they can survive.